I think my pet peeve is that a lot of brands who have come, they don't focus as much on creating or giving value to consumer. They are focusing on creating valuation for themselves.
करें शुरू करें Perfect. Welcome folks, welcome to another episode of Beyond Business Hours. Today I have a man who needs no introduction. Joining us today on Beyond Business Hours is a leader who has left his mark across some of the biggest industries and companies in India. From managing billions of dollars of P&L at Unilever to driving innovation at Flipkart, shaping the beauty and retail space at Nykaa, and now leading VLCC into its next chapter as its CEO, Vikas Gupta has consistently been at the forefront of transformation and growth. With an unparalleled track record of scaling businesses, navigating competitive markets, and shaping consumer trends, he brings a wealth of insights and vision to the table. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Welcome, Vikas. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Rohan. Doing very well. Very happy to be here.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you had time to make it. And I'm really, really excited to hear what you have to say, how your experience is at Beyond Business Hours. And I'm sure the viewers also who are watching are going to have an extremely fantastic
I
time
hope
as well.
so. So I'm happy to share whatever I have gone through. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're going to just start off with a few questions just around general overview about the past experiences. You've had such a illustrious career, for lack of a better word. And I'm sure that there are a lot of experiences, a lot of insights that you would want to share, a lot of things that a lot of people would want to hear, and personally me too as well, to understand how it is that a man like Vikas Gupta operates on a day-to-day basis, especially having worked everywhere and two of the biggest companies.
Right.
So Unilever, Flipkart, Nykaa. This sounds like a dream list of companies on their resume, on their professional experience to anyone. What's common? It's Vikas Gupta for sure, right? So could you walk us through your experiences and insights over the past, these three very different companies, very differently staged companies, how it has led you here, and how has that changed your approach to leading VLCC, which is one of India's largest skincare brands?
Wow, many questions in one. I think when you talk about Unilever, Flipkart, Nykaa, what you miss is the several stints that I had in Unilever itself. So Unilever, as you know, is a big multinational company. And I just had the good fortune of going through and being exposed to very, very different roles. I did roles in sales, I did roles in marketing, I did roles in global innovation, general management, of course. I did it across the whole variety of product portfolio that Unilever has, from beauty to personal care, home care, laundry, even foods to some extent. And I got to do that living in 5 different countries across 3 different continents, right? So that itself, that trajectory of career that I had, the experiences that I had, the variety, of the experiences that I was lucky enough to have. Again, I don't take any credit for it. I was just open, in terms of taking those experiences. I think it was just a great journey of learning, working with very different people in very different cultures, very different problem statements, very different consumer cohorts. So that just sort of, made me appreciate, first of all, that there is no one answer, to success. It is really about being very focused on, what you are solving and who are you solving it for, and then really working with people. And very early, I realized that, in the beginning, coming from an engineering background and then MBA, the typical Indian, middle class upbringing, you put a lot of premium on intellectual superiority, right? That you have to be right and you have to be, very sharp, and very soon you realize that just being sharp and, being one up on the guy that you're working with is not going to give the best solution. So it is really about, so the first insight that I have distilled in my own head, and I don't know if it's helpful to anybody else, is that it's all about crystallizing the problem statement. So you crystallize the problem statement and then you open it out to the people that you work with. I think my role in a lot of stints that I have done very well is that I have crystallized a problem statement. And then people surprise you with the kind of solutions that they are able to come up with. So you may not be the smartest in answering the questions, but if you could be the smartest in crystallizing what's the problem statement, suddenly, the answer that you might get is multi times over what you could have gotten yourself. So I'll come back to that, because that has been a profound learning that I've had through my career. But coming back, I think so that trajectory of learning and exposure that I had at Unilever, and I think having worked 20 years, you do, while the trajectory was great, at some point you reach that area in the graph where there is law of diminishing returns in terms of learning, exposure, etc. And I think at the same time there was a bit of like, what is the Hindi word, kida? Everybody was talking about digital transformation. I was in Indonesia at that time, and I was myself working with a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, learning about what they were doing. And I realized that while we were talking a lot about innovation within Unilever, but actual innovation was happening outside. People were solving real world problems outside. And the entire thing, how digital and technology was really shaping the world. So that just sort of created a lot of FOMO in me. And that is when Flipkart came calling, I thought that is absolutely the right place to go. And I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to lead marketing and customer growth for Flipkart. And I got to do that during the COVID period. Because in COVID period, I think we had to, grow up very fast. Suddenly from a nice to have sort of industry sector, you were thrust into this role of being the essential services provider. So there was a lot of work that happened, from a supply chain perspective, from a technology perspective. There would be lockdown in one city one day, another city one day. So I think just to see firsthand how technology can, solve real world problems at scale, I think that is what I learned at Flipkart. And I think the last bit about Nykaa, I think while working with Flipkart and living in Bangalore, I think you're just surrounded by so many entrepreneurs and people who have just started from nothing and created so much. So you get that itch that you also want to do something. And I think Nykaa came with a very interesting proposition. They wanted to build a new business, in B2B e-commerce for beauty and personal care products. And I thought that is absolutely the right place for me to sort of put together everything that I've learned, back in Unilever from my knowledge of the categories, products, formats, etc. And that, from a tech perspective and, from a data harnessing perspective, what I learned at Flipkart, to put it together. And I'm very, happy of what we've created at Nykaa, which is a B2B platform called Superstore by Nykaa. I think it was a very good thing. I started with literally, white piece of paper in front of me. And from there to scale it up, to almost $100 million annual run rate of revenue at a very little sort of burn rate. I think, we ended up hiring about 1,500 people within 18 months. So that was very nice. And that gave me a very different perspective on, how value can be created. Because at Unilever, it is about maybe managing and leading businesses which are already built. At Nykaa, it was really about, complete 0 to 1 journey, right from, what's the name that you create to, what kind of legal contracts that you get into with your partners to, hiring people at scale, building technology at the same time, building capability at the ground level from a supply chain perspective, logistics perspective. It was a massive operation that we did. So that was, my trajectory. Again, I credit my openness rather than my talent or anything like that, that I was fortunate enough to go through this trajectory.
I think you're being very modest when you say that.
No, I genuinely believe that because, sometimes you don't know as you're going through that journey, but when you look back, the dots connect. And I think the dots have connected so beautifully for me in terms of, the entire set of experiences that I've gone one after the other. First at Unilever, which I'm so grateful for, and then Flipkart and Nykaa. And finally coming, to VLCC, I think this is a different world altogether. Private equity coming into a business, looking at a business which has a great business, very strong fundamentals, very strong credibility, trust in the brand. The unit economics are very solid, but promoters could take it to a certain level.
Scale, yeah.
And I think that is where, so it's the 0 to 1 journey is already done. I think that is where the challenge was, can we use everything that we know, from a professional management perspective and the domain knowledge that we have to take it from 1 to 100. With new capital coming into the business, with new people, talent coming into the business, could we do that? So that was a challenge that really, really appealed to me. And when it's private equity, it becomes, maybe I don't have guts like you to just leave it all and become an entrepreneur by myself, but this is my entrepreneurship stint, through and through.
No, I think
because
that,
my compensation is linked to the value that we create.
Yeah, true.
I've invested my own money in the enterprise.
Yeah.
So, this is as close I'm going to come
Yeah.
to an entrepreneurship stint, which is what we're doing at VLCC.
And I think that's absolutely perfect, because I think it's your opinion on how you kind of look at these things. And you were mentioning to me earlier as well that, different stages of these companies have taught you different things across, with respect to either managing or whether it's kind of your own startup, your own stint at doing something of yourself. So I think it's really well summarized. I agree with, what you said about what you feel in terms of observability or how open you are. And leading people eventually. And, I think how you've kind of summed up your experiences in each one of these companies, I think maybe that's probably what is going to get you to the biggest thing to run VLCC as well. So, I think that's very well summed up. And, that actually is kind of follow-up to my next question as well, which is around that you've spent a lot of time in these different companies, right? I mean, like you mentioned, you started as an early position. I was going through your profile and I saw that I think you started at maybe the lowest, like an operations associate or something like that. And you worked your way up at a, senior leadership. You managed multiple departments, countries, billions of dollars of, P&L, and I believe also towards the board of directors as well for maybe certain products in Unilever.
Yes.
So that list just goes on and on. It just goes on to show that what is the hard work or what is the kind of experience required to actually get there to that level. But however, when I say that, you don't see that anymore today that much, right? Even with my parents' generation. Our parents used to work for 10, 15 years in a company, right? And then maybe think about even making a switch. But considering that maybe today's generation does not do that anymore that much, and you are also at a position where you have to hire and potentially work with a lot of younger folks who are probably coming with that mindset.
Yeah.
How do you look at this trend changing? What is your take on it?
See, I think, very interesting question. I think it's like relationships, right? I think when you are in a relationship, it needs to be, the best time, right? So I'm a big fan of people working on things that they feel passionate about, that energizes them. I think those days, at least for a large, section of people who are coming into the workforce, as I see, it's not only livelihood that they are earning while working, right? They want to work on something that truly gives them fulfillment, so that alignment of purpose with what you are doing. I think that is very important. And I think it's okay if, you work in some place for 3 years, 5 years, and then you feel like the motivation is not there, the inspiration is not there, you find something else to do. I'm okay. I'm perfectly okay with that. But the key thing there is that when you are in that moment, because then you need to be true to yourself. That if you are in that moment and you think that, then you give it your all. Because that's when you will be honest to yourself, then you'll be honest to what your emotions are. You'll be able to create something for the people that you're working with and for yourself. And the day it is lost, I think you should move on. It's okay. There are so many opportunities. The world has so many opportunities, so many problems to be solved. I think people should work truly on, where their passion takes them.
Probably alluding to what you mentioned a lot in terms of creating value for maybe what they're working on.
I think it's true because, at different stages of your life, you value different things. Okay. And I think at some stage for me, VLCC, coming to VLCC it was almost like, okay, you've worked for almost 25 years. From a learning perspective, maybe, you are, a large curve that you have, already reached. And then what do you do from here? One way could have been, okay, let me just start my own business with whatever I have learned, whatever I assimilated. This was, closest to that.
Got it.
Along with that, what also happened is that when I look at consumers, and I've worked in product companies, both from the retailer side as well as the manufacturer side for all my life, particularly in beauty and personal care. So there are two sort of trends which are coming together in my view. One is that in India particularly, but actually developing world all over, I think women are becoming part of the consumption class in a major way.
Okay.
I think so. Women are coming. They are more financially empowered. They are more in workforce. I think vanity is on the rise with social media, etc. So I think people are spending more. Women are spending more on how they look, how they feel about themselves, because they don't want to be held back. They want to unleash their whole potential, their full potential on the world. So that is a secular trend that is happening, and it is getting accelerated as I see it. The second trend I saw, and I have been on the other side, so I know that when somebody is using products, okay, products can give you incremental benefits. So if you, let's say, want to look younger, or if you have pigmentation problem, or you have some freckles somewhere, or something that you don't particularly like when you look at yourself in the mirror, products will only give you incremental benefit. The best products will give you incremental benefits. That is where business models like VLCC, which truly bring science and technology, those interventions which are still, largely non-invasive, but they can multiply the results the product can give by like 100 times.
Wow.
So suddenly when you have these consumers who need those kind of results, they are getting disillusioned with products, and that's where you see in beauty and personal care, there is a lot of flirtation. Women typically, they'll buy a product and then next time they'll buy another one, because they're always on the lookout. Whether it is their hair, their skin, overall body shape, sculpting, all of that, they're always looking for solutions that work for themselves. And my submission or my reflection as I look back at my career is that products can only take you this far. So I think this business model, which I credit the founders, Vandana Luthra, who actually set it up, and she's truly a visionary. I met her, and she said, I started this business thinking it's a techno beauty business.
Interesting.
When she opened her first clinic,
she first started.
Back in 1989, she opened the first clinic in Safdarjung, Delhi. And in fact, she was telling me her own family said, "Ye barber ka shop kyun khula hai?" And she said, I had to. Sometimes I told them, sometimes I said, "Jo sochna hai aapko socho." But I am building a techno beauty business, so it was always about high-end machines, and that is where in the early stages a lot of film stars, etc., gravitated towards VLCC, and they were regular customers.
Right. I remember.
So these are the two secular trends, and that is why I thought that VLCC is probably at the sweet spot of leveraging both these trends. And here is an opportunity where the brand is very strong, the trust factor is very strong. Let's see what we can do with this business over the next few years.
Interesting. That's actually a perfect segue to my next section as well, where we talk about for your inspiration. You mentioned about how you worked with a bunch of different visionaries who have a certain way of how they look at the world back when probably nobody even realized trends, right? So our next section is actually called FYI, which is for your inspiration. So my first question would be around this, that you've worked with top brands like Unilever for 20 years, and you've worked with Flipkart, Nykaa. They're similar, yet they're unique in their own way as well, right? We also today, as a regular consumer of the Indian market, or maybe even foreign markets, there are so many brands that are coming up and about that we see regularly, right? Some go up, some fall. It's regular, normal life now. So how does one crack that distribution puzzle? Because I believe that in FMCG, distribution is probably going to be key. Is it just distribution, or are there any other wonders that have worked very well for you while working at these companies to reach a larger audience?
See, I think distribution is fundamental, right? If the products are not available, you can create whatever brand you want. If it's not available, you're not going to get the benefit out of that, okay? Having said that, in the last 10 years, with the advent of e-commerce particularly, distribution has been largely democratized, okay? There is a separate tailwind that, from unorganized distribution, you're going to organized distribution now through, the departmental stores and the big stores, big box stores and e-commerce, etc. That has a different implication on unit economics, etc. But leave that aside for a moment. I think last 10 years or so, particularly in the last 5 years, distribution has been democratized. So a newbie brand, you just need an idea. So the ecosystem of creating a new brand, right from a marketing agency who will do it for you to a third-party factory who will create those products and white label it for them for you, and for you to get listed on an Amazon, Flipkart, Zepto, etc., etc. It's not that difficult anymore. So once distribution is taken out of the equation in terms of competitive edge. It still is maybe in some rural markets, etc. But largely, I'm saying, and more, it is not going to be a moat anymore. Then it comes to the basic fundamentals of what are you solving? Who's your target consumer? What is the problem that you're solving? How are you solving that problem better than somebody else? And in doing so, what is the value that you are giving or bringing to that consumer? And value is essentially about, the cross section of the insight, the product quality, and the price at which you give. That is, truly the value that you bring. And, people who do the best and who have their eyes on, giving that value to the consumer, they are the ones who are going to win. I think my pet peeve is that a lot of brands who have come, they don't focus as much on creating or giving value to consumer. They are focusing on creating valuation for themselves.
Sales,
and profits. I think that is where, we are already seeing that a lot of brands are falling by the wayside. And, the other thing I keep saying is a brand is one that brands reside in consumers' minds. Brands don't reside in boardrooms or anything like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So a lot of these brands now, if they are falling by the wayside, no consumer is missing them. Maybe they were not brands to begin with.
That's a very interesting take. Ghuma Fira Kar, it eventually comes down to what is the product and how good is it actually.
100%.
Always.
That is absolutely crystal clear in my mind.
Got it.
Unilever is, and Hindustan Lever in particular, always, seen as a great marketing company.
Yes.
A school and a university for marketing, and it is. I'm not saying it is not. But my biggest learning and some of the biggest successes that I saw at Unilever across various categories is when we got the product right.
Got it.
So my learning, the entire facade and, whatever we put on presentations, etc., and being a marketeer myself by training, I can tell you that it's all about marketing and advertising and branding. It's actually about the product.
Always.
Definitely in FMCG, it is about the product. I'll give you a simple example. Okay. I can give a couple, but one which is very close to me. I used to work on this brand, which in India we call it Surf Excel, but globally we call it Dirt is Good. We call it by the platform name because it's known by different brand names across the world.
Daag Achhe Hain.
Daag Achhe Hain. So Daag Achhe Hain is the common platform. So the brand exists in Brazil, China, Vietnam, India, a lot of other markets. And the common element for the brand, it's known by different names. So it's Rinso in Indonesia, it's Omo in Brazil, it's Surf Excel in India, and so on and so forth. So it is called Daag Achhe Hain. And one thing I realized when we went to Indonesia, for example, it's a hand wash market largely. People still use a lot of elbow effort in washing clothes. Okay. And when I went during my induction, I was talking to the R&D folks, and they were telling me, hey, this formulation that we have is like the Rolls-Royce formulation.
Okay.
We have this polymer and that enzyme and this, that, the other, everything. And who was the competitor? The competitor was a local player there, and he happened to be almost 50% discount to us. Okay, per wash. So obviously there was a lot of pressure. People were downtrading, and I was asking, does our product have the superiority to command that premium? And the unequivocal answer I got from the R&D, of course. It's the Rolls-Royce. You go to consumer, and I was, sitting in their homes, and when they're in bathrooms, they were washing clothes, etc. We gave them this product blind. We gave them our product. We gave them competitor product. They just couldn't find a difference.
Okay.
And then why are they not able to find the difference? R&D guy was next to me, saying maybe they're using too much of elbow. So they are compensating for lack of polymer in the competition by their elbow.
Force.
I said, now, there are two ways you can go about it. You can, teach consumers that, you don't need to use the elbow effort. That is one way. And we must anyway do that. Or we can find out how are they really finding the difference between these two products. And there are two answers that I got from consumers. One, they look at the quantity of lather. When they mix the powder in the bucket, how much lather it is, because that tells them potency hai. And that also tells them ये ज़्यादा चल सकता है, so मैं ज़्यादा कपड़े use कर, I can wash more clothes in the same grammage, with the product, if the lather is good. The second moment of truth that the consumer told us is when I take the the washed clothes out of the bucket, the color of water that is left behind, that tells me how efficacious the detergent was. If the water is more dirty, I feel that it has done a better job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we did is, and I'm simplifying it for you, but we took out a whole lot of these polymers, enzymes, etc., because clearly consumers were not able to pick it up. Anyway, one was for rust stain. How many times do you get a rust stain in a year, right? We took out a lot of those polymers and enzymes, saved a bunch of money, and we invested behind two things. One is we gave much more lather. We gave shampoo like lather
Wow.
in the detergent. And then we put a dye which, after a certain time would make the water dirtier. And I tell you, the product just took off.
Wow.
The product just took off.
Okay.
So same price, product change, same marketing, but it's the quality of product which really sort of made it, go bonkers.
That's
So that is
crazy.
my very, very clear learning, that it is the product, that you deliver to that is where she sees the value.
Got it.
Marketing may bring her to use it. Same with VLCC, by the way. If our
Yeah.
service is not good,
Yeah.
you tell me you are a customer, you are so happy customer, etc.
Yeah.
That's the essence of a brand.
Understood.
It's in that moment of truth. Are you able to deliver that value
That's actually
to the consumer?
that's an amazing story. Vese, on a side note, can we share this
Yeah, of course. What do you mean?
on the? No, I mean it's public forum.
I'm not bound by any.
Because I had no idea. 'Cause I'm part of that same mindset actually. Who would say that if my water is dirty after taking my clothes out, I feel like it's done a better job.
Yeah.
So,
No,
but
I have so many stories like this.
if we can share, then take it
100%
perfect.
sure,
All right.
sure, no
So,
problem.
okay. So I'll.
It's a very common thing that I learned. There in other categories, people have done something similar.
Okay.
Like, for example, the way your ketchup is, or the way your butter is. So,
Yeah, I think actually hearing it from the horse's mouth actually probably adds more truth to it. I've seen a lot of different founders, entrepreneurs, promoters that in the chase for something else, they tend to forget the experience or the quality of the product or the service that they're giving, and that is something that clearly does not.
no,
work.
not to be judgy, and I think that is the difference between a great entrepreneur and maybe the people who try, because I do believe that especially on the product side, if you see, there are so many new brands who have come up in India in the last few years itself.
Yeah.
Right, so many. We call them D2C brands. They got a lot of funding, etc. How many of them even understand what is inside the product? Because literally they are going to a third-party ecosystem of manufacturers and people who will come and say, आपको ये product दे देंगे, ये packaging दे देंगे, ये format है, आपको अगर पैसे में आपको unit economics में आता है तो आप कर लो. They just don't know what they are giving to the consumer. So the focus on creating delightful products, which comes from understanding what is the need that you are solving for, I think that is not there across the board. Because again, that is the difference between creating value or giving value or creating that short-term valuation blips. So I think that is something that, I would definitely want to venture on that side. Maybe that's my training. We have been trained that you build businesses, you run businesses
That's
for 100 years.
long-term thinking.
You don't think of only next year valuation. What?
No, agreed. I think it's probably the more scalable way of actually reaching new revenues, etc. I think it'll always boil down to how good your product or the service is, right? Because if it's
Ultimately,
good,
it's about retention as well, right?
It's
Consumer
gonna be about
retention. If
retention,
you
right?
keep acquiring new customers and don't retain any,
it's a never-ending cycle.
it's a never-ending cycle. You will never be able to create a brand that people have trust on.
Yeah. So, considering, here, like I said, hearing it from the horse's mouth, considering that, you're saying what you're saying because you have a wealth of experience in this exact domain, right? Other promoters who would have started a D2C brand, maybe they would have let's say 5 years, 10 years experience, not matching up to the kind of details or the in-depth knowledge that you would have, right? So, what is the legacy that you're looking to leave behind now in this particular industry, right? In the fashion, in the beauty, in the e-commerce kind of retail industry, what is the legacy that Vikas Gupta wants to leave
I don't
behind?
really think like that, to be honest. And let me just also start by saying that I have a huge respect for a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs. In fact, I do believe that I didn't have that gene. Okay, I can give 100 reasons why, but so I have a lot of respect for people like you or several other people that I've been fortunate enough to work with or partner, because I do believe that it takes a lot for someone to start something and build something from nothing. So that's the first disclaimer that I want to give. And I don't think I'm just too small. I don't have any big illusions of who I am, etc., to think about legacy, etc. But I do believe, like I said, I think the insight, or and because I've worked mostly on women brands across my life, and I've across the world maybe would have met 1,000 consumers just to understand what their consumer behavior and aspirations in life, etc., are, just from that perspective. I think one insight, which is a universal insight that I have seen, is that women are their worst critics. Okay, what does that mean? That means that even the most beautiful woman, when she looks at herself in the mirror, she finds flaws. Okay, and that somehow comes in her way, in her own mind. Nobody else can see it, but it comes in her way. Okay, so there is the whole thing about they shouldn't feel like that. There should be Dove, for example, does a lot of work around self-esteem, etc. I mean, that's all good, and I fully I've worked on Dove. So I'm fully supportive of that strand of thinking. But at the same time, if that is the genuine truth, if women feel hindered, even if by 1%, of unleashing their talent, their potential on the world because of what they see in the mirror, can we bring those solutions to them in a manner that is affordable, that is accessible, that is transformative?
That's really nice to hear.
So that's what we want to do at VLCC, is truly to partner women and help them unleash themselves, their full potential on this world. God knows we need them.
I think that's amazing to hear. You're saying that you're talking about not being able to leave a legacy, but I think you driving with that kind of vision, I think today hearing you, it's definitely going to play an impact much more in my head. I'm probably going to look at my mom and maybe my fiance in a very different manner. And I agree with you, and I think that's what you said is a very beautiful statement. I don't have much else to say, because I think it's a very nice thing that you said, and I really hope that a lot of people, and especially women, are able to find value in VLCC over the next, the course of your tenure. And, I'll definitely be recommending it. I like I said, I'm a loyal customer of VLCC as well.
You are.
I'll definitely be recommending to more people.
Great.
So that actually gets us to our next section of WTF, which is what's the future? So these are going to be questions around where you see the world heading towards, maybe in that particular industry or that particular process or that particular company, where you see it heading over the next decade. What do you think the future of it lies, right? So since I'm I run a tech company, I will ask my first question around, it'll be criminal if I don't ask you anything around tech or AI especially. So in the age of automation and AI and different various new emerging technologies coming at such a rapid pace, how do you see the role of technology evolving in the beauty space, and how are you using technology to shape up the future at VLCC as well?
I think it's a very, very good question, very close to my heart, because like I said, I think the founders did a great job in building this business and bringing it this far. I think the role of technology is, if you don't have technology, you can only scale it to a certain level. Okay, because the level of knowledge that is required, the level of expertise that is required in being able to counsel people, understand, what their needs are, what their condition is, what their individual characteristics or lifestyle or life stage is, and then being able to propose the right set of solutions for them. It takes a lot. It's a art and a science. It's a lot combined. And like I was telling you, I think we had 90 clinics when we started the journey along with Carlyle, 90 odd clinics. I think those people were absolutely paramount who were running those 90 clinics. Each clinic by that one person, because the accumulated knowledge that they had, and most of these people had been working for 10, 15, 20 years at VLCC. What we realize is that if we have to scale this 90 clinics to, let's say, 200 clinics or 300 or 500 clinics in the fullness of time, because India needs that, India deserves that, you will not be able to do it without technology. Okay? So using technology, hard coding some of these decision trees or algorithms, right? And today we are using AI as well, at a limited scale, but it's very, very helpful. Because what it does is that new people, when they come in, it just raises the floor. They start at a much higher level of understanding of what do they need to speak to consumer about, what do they need to tell to consumers, and because we have like 1,500 services that we provide, knowing about each one of those services, telling how does it work, what's the science behind it. I think technology just helps elevate everybody's capability level and competence level to a bare minimum level. Because today even consumers, when they come, very different from let's say 10 years ago, today they have ChatGPT on their phone. They know about the treatments even before they have entered our clinic.
Yep.
So our people need to know more than them.
Correct.
They should be able to answer questions they have after doing a basic research of what the service is about. And if we just do it in a manual manner, it just won't work. Okay. So I think just raising the floor and getting faster scale up, I think that is where there is a lot of technology, that is going. The other is, of course, again, from a 1 to 100 journey that I'm talking about, I think just having the right efficiency parameters. So what is our capacity utilization? How many hours? A customer comes in, their satisfaction, there is a, what do you call, a check-in, check-out. So we know exactly whether she has got the right length of duration of service. Many, many small things, but essentially solving the efficiency problem or efficiency opportunity. Again, a lot of technology being used for that. And, the third thing is really how we engage our customers. VLCC over the years has served more than 2 million customers, right? So 2 million customers, because, they may have taken a service and may no longer be taking a service because they maybe, fell by the wayside somewhere. Just going back to them and, pitching to them the right thing based on what their life stage would be today, because we know when they were with us. So just harnessing the data, what services they took, what was the condition, what was the life stage, etc., and really sort of bringing them in. So a lot from a growth hacking perspective. Again, a lot of technology being used on that side.
I love to hear that, because, and this are probably referring a lot to the potential people who are watching it. A lot of people actually are not sure as to where can technology actually be used. But I think what I hear from you is that, for example, even the smallest of metrics like looking at, efficiency or what is, let's say, a machine producing at what capacity, things like that, which are solved by, let's say, a simple tech solution, let's say having a very good ERP at place.
Yeah.
But those small things actually make such a big difference in the longer run. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Correct.
And I think sometimes people tend to say that, no, my technology has to be a moonshot idea, otherwise it's not going to help. But I think fixing the small
No,
things
and that is what
first.
I meant when I said earlier about technology solving real world problems.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not a tech visionary, so I'm not sort of building the next AI model.
Yeah.
I am saying how can tech be utilized for me to run this business in a, so faster growth, better efficiency, and like I said, it really helps us scale up. So very simple things. And my learning again, working in tech companies from inside is that, the tech solutions also need to work with the human beings that they're going to use them.
Absolutely.
If you create, tech solutions which, your consumer, your sort of, let's say an employee in this case, an employee would be a consumer of those tech solutions. If she's not able to comprehend them, it becomes too complicated for her. It doesn't seamlessly blend into her day-to-day working. It's going to fail.
Yeah.
Right. So being very cognizant, again, it's a whole exercise of change management, understanding who your customer is. It's the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for a tech company, if you're creating tech solutions, again, knowing who your customer is, what does she do, what her pain points are, and how can I help? That's the perspective that we apply to the way we create tech solutions at VLCC.
God, it's built by humans and it's built for humans as well, right? Rather than built by humans to replace humans. I don't think that's the.
Now, I think this is one of the things. My wife keeps asking me, for example, what will happen to our kids? AI is doing everything. I said there are still, there will be still a few things.
Lots.
That AI cannot do.
You also have to adapt, right? Life is also like a product journey too, right? You have to adapt.
100%. And I think I put the VLCC kind of service in that bucket as well, it will always be about human beings reassuring other human beings that here is a solution, it might work, and executing that.
Correct.
Right?
So that actually, the counter side to that table would be, and what you are an expert in is around marketing, right? So, I remember reading about, Ustra, the hair company being acquired by VLCC.
Yeah.
Then recently, I think the biggest talk of the town over the last week has been that Minimalist, that skincare company, has been acquired by, HUL as well. So for companies that are looking to, D2C companies or let's say smaller scale companies, for those companies that are looking to expand their market or to grow their customer base, what do you think is going to work for them in the future? You like, and especially considering that you mentioned that distribution is not a moat anymore,
Right.
Because it's become a lot easier. So what do you think are some of the key expansion plans or marketing plans that some company would have in this industry to help them scale?
To me, I think it is at the heart of it. It is very simple. It is about what problem are you solving. Can you answer that question in one line? Okay, what is the need gap in ultimately what are consumers looking for? Consumers are looking for making their life either better or simpler. Okay, everything, the highest common factor of all the insights across categories, etc. All is that are you making my life better or are you making it simpler? Okay, so from that perspective, if a company can answer what is the need gap that I am addressing in a consumer's life, that's the first question. That is you need to be very sharp about that. And the second thing is, how are you delivering on that better than anybody else? The moment you have these two things right, you will keep figuring out new cohorts to serve, and also the same cohorts to serve them better, right? Retention, what do you call, upsizing, upselling, so growth opportunities will keep emerging. What you need to be very clear about is who are you serving, what are you serving him, her for, and how are you serving him, her better than the other avenues. The other avenues, by the way, might reside in other categories. It may not be a direct competitor, like to like competitor. So just having that your mind open to understand from a consumer's point of view that how are they solving that problem today? The answer may be somewhere else. How are you doing it better than them? So if you answer these three questions, I believe you will keep finding opportunities to grow.
And eventually you'll keep figuring out along the journey.
You will keep figuring it out. Absolutely. I think that is the other thing. Dots connect.
Yeah, I definitely
through
agree
the journey. Yeah, don't connect at the start.
Yeah, and so I mean, like let's say an automatic. Next question for me would be that if I had to ask you that, let's say today you're sitting in the hot seat with an opportunity as an angel investor, right, to perhaps invest in a vertical, in a product or an industry. If today you had to choose, what would you choose, and why would you choose that particular, let's say, product?
I don't think I can answer that. I just feel so ill-equipped to answer that. That is why whatever little money I have, I give it to people I trust. I trust that they know better than me, so they invest it amongst many companies. I think one lesson that I have learned, or I mean I knew, but I apply that, is that I never go all in on one thing, unless it is VLCC.
Okay.
That is where I've gone big time all in. But other places, you try to hedge and you try to sort of go behind many things. And there are people who are doing it, as their day job. They are very passionate about it. So I trust that they know more than me.
But is there any particular industry that you think that if you had the option to put in money, you would?
I think, it has to be something about technology. That is for sure. It has to be tech driven, because like I said, I'm a big fan of how technology is fundamentally transforming.
Got it.
Just look at our own lives, how they have completely changed.
Big time.
In the last 10, 12 years. Everything has to be, a strong technical spine has to be paramount.
Got it. Understood. So that our next section is called BYOB, which stands for Build Your Own Business. So these questions are going to be around, potentially people who are watching to what it is that they could probably hear from you, or what it is that insights they could get from you if they had to, let's say, struggling to maybe build from the start of where they are currently, or how they're looking to kind of scale from that 0 to 1 journey. So, you've seen evolutions across many industries over the last, 25, 30 odd years that you've worked. What are, a lot of our clients at EMB as well, these are promoters or second-gen entrepreneurs, second-gen family business entrepreneurs who are coming into a very legacy-run business, right? It's been running a certain manner for a very long time, with pen, paper, whatever it might be, whatever their processes might be. And they're making good money. Money is not a concern for them. They're scaling it up. They're growing 5%, 6% year on year. They're good, right? But a lot of people that we work with, right, they are coming with the same problem statement. These guys are saying that I want to get to the next level using technology. I have no idea how, but I want to get to the next level because I know that is the future. You can see 5-10 years later and you say that if I don't have technology, I'm not going to get scaled up, right? So when you've seen these evolutions across various industries, what are some of the biggest brands or biggest challenges that you have had while digitizing a brand, especially like VLCC, and how do you go about being ready for the future?
Right. So I think, again, I feel ill-equipped to sort of answer on everybody's behalf. But I would say that even when you are saying, I want to use technology, you need to know why. It can't just be because everybody else is using it. FOMO is never the answer. Being clear on what are you solving for?
Yeah.
And at VLCC, it has been very clear. In fact, sometimes you don't realize, and that is why I have a lot of respect for promoters, etc. Some of the systems and processes they put in, to run business in a certain way, they are even more robust than what we would have learned, when we were, working on big, huge businesses, because sometimes those things are not, as important. Okay. So if somebody comes, and says, I can see the future, you need to really ask, what is the future? What are you solving for? Is it, a consumer pain point that, pen and paper doesn't work for the consumer? Is that what you're solving for? Is it your employees? Pen and paper doesn't work, and what are you solving for? And how will you do it in a way that sort of change management is simpler? Or like I said, the scaling up part, maybe scaling up beyond a certain point is not possible if you are not digitized. So understanding why you are doing it is very important. It's like the old saying that when you have to cut a tree, 70% of the time you spend on sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's the same in my view. A lot of people probably would just be doing it, and I know, extended family, etc. They just try to, let's build an app, for our business. You build an app and nothing happens.
What?
By the way, even in VLCC, when we came in, we realized that exactly to that brief, there were 3 different people in different parts of the business who were doing something on digitization. And so what have you built? And we realized that, only if the 3 people had sat together, we would have done a very different thing.
Yeah.
So things like that. I would just say, just be very conscious of why you are doing something. And I think people like you, your role or tech company's role is to partner some of these entrepreneurs, promoters, owners into crystallizing the problem statement so you can build the right solutions.
Absolutely. I think if the problem statement is not clear in your head, and that's how we go about even solutioning for our customers as well. We don't just go to them and tell them that we do tech solutions for you.
Right.
We actually first understand what is the problem, because if it's not a problem that's big enough to solve, maybe there are some, better lower hanging fruit that you can kind of take care of first. But it's, in this segment, since we're talking about, let's say building your own business, right? And today, if you were, let's say, to start a brand in this particular industry that we're talking about, how do you even go about finding a problem statement in the first place? Because like we had mentioned earlier, that there are enough and more brands that are out there that are solving literally for the smallest of niches of products. Someone's probably solving for face pimples, someone's solving for like leg acne, if that's a thing. I don't know, but I've seen a bunch of different niche products that have come out, right? So, and of course at VLCC, I'm sure you guys are also looking at, building new different kinds of products that are going to add value to the customer's life. So keeping in mind that there's competition that exists already, maybe they have a little bit of a head start with you with that particular product, not the brand name, but that particular product. How would you decide if you had to tomorrow or in the future, that if you had to find a new product to create for VLCC, how do you even go about finding that problem?
See, there are 2 different questions here. So for a brand, for a company like VLCC, it's probably simpler, right? Because we have a platform, we have existing customers. We can put a few products, we can start small, and we can see what's the traction. So we don't need to intellectualize it till death.
Okay.
Right? So we can put it. I think the earlier question that you were asking is, how would somebody want to start off today? And I think that's the same process for companies like VLCC or even Unilever for that matter. I mean, first of all, you have to be listening a lot. You listen to your consumers. You understand, what are the people talking about these days. Again, even with high-end services, etc., what are the some unsolved problems which are there. So one is that deep understanding, deep empathy, deep listening. You spend time listening to people. The other way is, you can look out, you can see what are the trends that are going on. Maybe globally there is something that is emerging that you want to bring to India, But, those are standard answers. What I have seen, successful promoters, and I've worked with a couple of them, right? they go with a lot of, what is the word? I think gut and empathy, right? It is that problem that they're solving would typically be something that is very close to their heart. They're not trying to solve it for that person on the road. They're trying to solve it for themselves. One of the biggest entrepreneurs that I've worked with in my last role, I'm a big fan. I learned so much from her. And
We're talking about Falguni from Nykaa.
yeah, of course. I'm a big admirer of her, and I think what she started was from this deep personal angst.
Yeah.
That good quality premium brands, beauty brands are just not available in India.
Yeah.
And there is a trust deficit. Even if they're available, people think they're fake.
Yeah.
Or they are whatever copies, right? So for her to build against again, that's the other thing. They have that gut that this is a need area that I want to go behind, and then they don't listen because there will be always naysayers, who will keep telling you it's not going to work. They have 100 reasons why something can't work. So that's what I think, so standard answers are listen to consumers, look at trends. But if you have a deep conviction about something, there is a deep personal problem that you want to address.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also a very good place to start.
This is the, I think, third or fourth time that I'm hearing this about Falguni. A lot of people who have worked with her, we had the fortune of meeting some other people as well. They've told me the same thing, that it is because it is such a deep personal pain point in her life when she first started it. I think that is actually what helped her to kind of scale it to the initial, at least few years before, let's say, some more other experience.
100%. And I think that is a common thread that I've seen in many successful founders, promoters, because they are also not in the game for a year or two.
No.
Or 5 years. They are not in the game of exit. They're not looking to be acquired by somebody tomorrow. They are building something forever.
For value forever that will stand the test of time, right?
Exactly.
Got it. Interesting. But definitely bullish on this space.
And VLCC
100%.
anyway operates in that space. And I do believe that that is a space that we can
Interesting.
go after.
Interesting. That's probably like maybe a little glimpse of what we might be seeing from VLCC.
Yeah, already there are quite a few products which are out.
I'm looking forward to
passionate about.
I'm looking forward to see how the response is for that. But thank you so much for that. That brings us to an end of our long question segments. Now comes a little bit of a fun part and an interesting part. I hope you'll enjoy
I'm
this.
stressed now.
Now is the time where you can, around and sit and, maybe just speak your mind or have a good guess at what's going to come up next. So the next part is section is called Trick or Tech. So this is where I ask you different statements, and I will ask you in each one of these statements, I'll put 3 sentences out in front, and out of the 3, 2 of them are tricks, which is basically not real.
Okay.
And one of them is something that is actually being solved by tech.
Okay.
So your role is now to identify out of the 3 which one you believe.
What's the prize?
The prize is knowledge.
Okay, all right, good. Let's go.
It's really interesting because this is something that I also spend a little bit of time in, and I really love this segment of it because I get to research a lot, see what's happening in the world, and it's pretty cool. And I've had a lot of feedback from even our audiences that they're really interested, and they've gone ahead and maybe even purchased a couple of products or gone and done some research on that as well. So coming back to the segment, so this is Trick or Tech, like I've already explained it. So the first one, we'll have it up on the screen. I'll just narrate it for the audience as well. So the first one is around personalized skincare innovations. So statement 1 is that a device that analyzes skin proteins to predict aging and recommend personalized skincare routines. Statement 2, a mirror that changes its reflection to show how you would look like with different skincare products applied. And statement 3, a bracelet that releases customized fragrances based on your mood detected through skin sensors.
Very surprising because I personally know all 3 in various ways and manners people are solving for. I don't know.
So there are definitely like that. This is a bit tricky because this is going to be a bit tricky because all 3 have had certain advancements that have been made.
Right.
But there's one particular statement that is actually there, and it's not just in the prototyping stage anymore. It's built.
No, for example, the second one, we were using it. I think this is the virtual reality sort of mirror that, in fact, it's very commonplace now. You can find in retailers, even in e-commerce. Nykaa has it, for example. You can see it in e-commerce. When you apply makeup, it it can show your face. Like in Lenskart, you see
Correct,
the
the
glasses.
glasses.
It's the same thing.
Correct, yeah.
So the second one is definitely there. I think the third one, the bracelet, I know this is a very old technology that has been going on for years. We used to discuss this in Unilever as well. And the first one, we do it, as in VLCC does the first one, where we analyze your, your skin, various things, not just the proteins, and it actually tells you what's your skin age.
Yeah, correct.
So it tells you what's your skin age, it tells you different parts, what is the age and what is the score, and based on that, it recommends. So all three, I believe, are...
So I think I'll take conviction on your last statement because you seem the most confident about the first statement.
The first one is definitely
The first one is actually where it is. And, we're
Okay.
referencing to, an earlier part where we were speaking that. So L'Oreal has actually introduced
Yes.
a machine called the Cell Bioprint device. They had partnered with a Korean biotech company called Nano and Tech.
I'm very aware of this.
I believe this is
I'm
what
very
you
aware
might
of
be
this
referring
because
to as
L'Oreal
well.
is the one who partnered with Nykaa
Correct.
to bring it there.
Correct.
And I also know they were working on it for years because
Yeah,
in the
they
early
did
stages it was very
about
gimmicky.
10 years of research.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it was very gimmicky in the early stages.
Yeah.
Now it is at a stage where consumers find value in it.
And it's exactly like you mentioned. It kind of, they want to solve skin problems proactively rather
Right.
than reactively.
Right.
Plus, in the age of where a lot of people are not wanting to play guessing games with their doctor, but rather see data and statistics
Correct.
about what you are, and then
Correct.
accordingly.
So you
go
come
for
to
that
VLCC,
skincare.
we do this as well.
I'll definitely do that. I've
you
seen
can get it
photos
done
of
in DLF1.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll check it out because I've only seen photos of it. It's like a little wafer machine, so
Right.
I've only seen photos of it. But since you've actually used it, I didn't know that it was in production in the VLCC in Gurgaon.
It is, 100%.
So I'm definitely next time I'm there, I'm definitely gonna try it.
Cool.
That brings us to our next segment, which is the quirky innovations segment. This is around quirky inventions. So the first statement: a holographic pet companion that mimics real animal behaviors, including wagging its tail, purring, or even faking indifference. Statement 2: a fridge that dispenses chilled face masks along with your beverages, ensuring you stay hydrated inside and outside. And third, a robotic pillow that breathes to help reduce anxiety and improve sleep by mimicking natural breathing patterns.
Oh my God. One of them is correct.
Yep.
Maybe the third one.
Yeah, correct. So the third one. So in fact, like I said earlier, there are certain elements of truth in each one of these, which is what makes it a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
But for example, the holographic pet is not achieved yet, but there are tangible hardware pets that kind of mimic
that.
A fridge.
Even
is
the
something,
second one, yeah.
There's some truth to this as well.
Right.
So the third one is actually there's a device by the name of the Somnox sleep robot. So that's basically a pillow that stimulates breathing. It helps in relaxation, in anxiety, in stress. It lowers the heart rate, etc., etc. And what it does is essentially it moves in a certain manner along your body. So it's not like a pillow that you're sleeping on. It's a pillow that you kind of hug.
Right.
And that motion, it kind of first recognizes your heartbeat,
Right.
gets it down to a lower BPM, and it kind of mimics that. And then your hand is on top of it. Subconsciously, what it does is
Got it.
it kind of makes the same for as well.
Very
So
interesting.
it's about $600. It's got a bunch of patented technologies on
Wow.
it. And, when I was doing some research on it, I found that there were thousands and thousands of people who have already purchased
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I think this came out maybe a few years back. I think 2020, around that year, or 2022 is when they had the next prototype of the Somnox Sleep Robot 2, which is, I guess, their new model in this device. This brings us to our last segment. So this is around fashion tech innovations. So the first statement: luxury brands are creating dresses that can change textures like silk to cotton using nanotechnology. Second, a pair of customizable temperature regulating socks that adjust based on your activity, whether you're at home or on the go. And the third statement: a jacket that integrates Bluetooth technology, allowing you to control your phone's music, answer calls, or adjust volume directly from the jacket's sleeve.
Okay, what I would really like is number 2. So I don't know whether that is correct or not. I would really love to have number 2 because, socks. Yeah,
You think the number 2?
number 2.
So the
three.
tech one is number 3 over here.
Number 3 should be very easy, no? There's no challenge in that.
So this I think the impact from the jacket sleeve is actually gone. There is technology that we have seen, which integrates technology into our clothes. But that actually has hardware devices inside.
Yeah,
attached
like
to
your
our
jacket buttons, you can
Yeah.
always have something. This
So those are hardware
hardly-
pieces that we're talking about. This I'm talking about. So there's basically a jacket which is made by Levi's, and they partnered with Google to create their commuter jacket. So they tied up with the Google division called Jacquard. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but that's their technology division that kind of integrates with clothes and fashion. So what this does is it has copper touch wires on towards the end of its sleeve. It
Right.
also has a button, no doubt about it. But the main functions are actually done from
Oh, okay.
doing this
So
on
you
the
can
sleeve.
just do this.
So, when they first actually launched it, they showed like a guy sitting on a bike and, he was like where to go. So he was doing this and he got some navigations that, this means going left. If it's here, it means going right. So
Okay.
different things
I put
around.
this under gimmicks, like you said, quirky, right?
funny enough thing is that this is actually sold out most of the time.
Oh, really?
You don't, I mean, I've been looking at this for a while now,
Wow.
and I've never seen it in stock.
Wow.
Maybe because they build limited pieces, I don't know. But it's something that they launched, and interestingly enough, this is a bit of a shameless plug, but they outsourced this work of creating this jacket to a design agency by the name of IDEO. So, when I was doing research, I found out that even a company like Google and Levi's to create something which is so unique, partner with a fashion company and such a tech giant is not something that you hear of every day.
Yeah.
And for that, they worked with a design agency to kind
Right.
of make sure that it's accessible and movable for the people who are using it.
Right.
But yeah, that brings us to
Good.
the end of our segment, and I'll be happy to tell you more because I know about the first one as well. Luxury brands they are, but it's not able to change textures yet. It's changing colors, right?
Yes.
So there is some truth to this.
Yeah, silk to cotton is a
Correct. That's a bit
leap.
pushing it right now. But
Yeah.
they're using it in cars as well. Again, not the materials, but they're using it for cars, for clothes. So that brings us to the end of this segment and to our last segment, which is what we call our rapid fire. And this is, I'm going to ask you a few questions, quick responses, and they're multiple choice questions. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you a choice of this or that.
Okay.
And you'll have to come and tell me whatever
Okay.
first comes directly to your head. So the first one, physical activity or meditation?
Physical activity. Sure.
Early mornings or late nights?
Late nights. Age is catching up, so some early mornings now.
Digital or retail?
Digital.
Long strategy meetings or quick brainstorming sessions?
I don't have the patience for long meetings, so yeah,
Quick.
quick ones.
Got it. +1. Challenging industry norms or reinventing the game?
I don't know what's the difference.
Challenging industry norms is, I would say, something that applies with what has been age-old practices, whereas reinventing the game is basically coming up with something all new altogether only.
Which is
one
the
would
same
be
thing.
one would be
You'll
around
question-
one would be
okay.
around changing processes. One would be around going a different direction itself.
Okay, I don't know. Second one,
Okay. Focus on people or focus on profits?
people.
And
First.
the last one, premium products or mass market appeal?
See, value is what I say. So the answer is not either. It's the trick is because in both you need to give value.
Yeah, true, very true.
In
yeah.
both you need to give value. If you don't give value, if it's just an expensive product doesn't give value, it's not going to be successful.
But
Same with
I'm
mass
sure
market.
you've seen some premium products that are expensive but probably don't give as much value.
And that
as
is why they are not as successful.
Mm.
Because anybody can sort of open a store, let's say, just for, in retail
Yeah.
and price something, whatever.
Yeah.
But if that itself becomes, valuable for people that, they have the badge value or whatever, I think there will be some value. Is the point. It's
Got
the
it.
entire mix. It's not just the product itself, but it's the surround sound around the product as well.
Yeah.
So my view is that there has to be always a certain value. Rolex will have a value, Rolls-Royce will have a value, so will Maruti 800.
True. Very true.
So-
Very true. But perfect. Vikas, that brings us to the end of our episode today on Beyond Business Hours. First of all, thank you so much for taking out the time. And just as some last words, is there any advice that you would like to give to, people watching this? A lot of people who would be watching this would be people who are interested in, the fashion, beauty, e-commerce space.
Right.
So is there any advice that you would like to give to maybe young listeners or people who are in good positions, and last words of advice for you?
I feel old when I have to talk to young people. But I think this is one advice that I give to myself. It is basically always be focused on who you are serving. Don't take your eyes off that. I think
Perfect.
that is
I think
you have
that
to keep coming back to that.
yeah, I think that embodies who you are as a man, and whatever I have interacted with you, whatever I've read up, I've had the fortune of watching a bunch of your previous interviews, etc. as well, and I think that's one synonymous theme that has come out every time, that you're always talking about customer, customer, customer. You're always talking about creating that value as well. So I think at the end of the day, sometimes it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. It's sometimes just putting your ear to the ground and actually just hearing some basic zeros and ones
Yep.
as compared to trying to make it overcomplicated. But that's very good to hear. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
taking
Rohan.
out the time. For our viewers who are watching it, I hope you did have a very good session watching Vikas Gupta share his insights, his experiences. I definitely got to learn a lot. I'm sure there are a lot of things that you would have learned as well. I'm going to have a fun time editing this podcast. It's going to be challenging which clips to keep, which not to keep. But I hope you had a great time, and thank you so
I
much
had a
again
wonderful
for
time.
coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Rohan.
and best
Really,
of luck
thank you.
for your tenure again continuing at VLCC. You already have an existing customer in me, but I will definitely be spreading the word, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more customers will get
Very
added
kind
after
of you.
this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cool.